There's a waterfall, and there's a secret gold mine right under the waterfall. Holy cow. Oh, look at that. I found a secret gold mine under a waterfall, which is just awesome in itself. But this is not where the adventure started. So if you want to get caught up, I'll leave the first part of the adventure right after this clip. So we're up in the Cascade Mountains today. It's May, the snow's coming off, it's been a pretty warm spring. What I'm most interested in is chasing some quartz float or some mineralized float up some of these creeks and seeing if we can pinpoint a spot where I can come back later and do a little prospecting higher up in the mountains when the snow gets off in June and July. Well, here's our first look at the creek, and it's like I said, the snow's melting off, so it's pretty high right now. But if you look across the way, this is all bedrock right here, and I'm looking right back up over here. There's a little inside bend right there, right in the sun, some pretty good sized rocks on it. My hope is that behind some of these boulders right in here, we're going to find some gold that sneaks into the inside bend and gets caught in behind these boulders. Now, some of the first places I like to look are in this moss stuff down here, because it's a natural miner's moss, and it's so wet here, we have moss growing all over the riverbanks. So when the water level gets super high here, it might be, you know, 2, 3, 4 feet over my head when it's really rushing, and it'll wash a bunch of gold down the river. And on these inside bends, it'll trap the gold in this moss and behind these big rocks. Some of these bigger rocks out of here, and just skim the moss off the surface. You see that? That's just like the carpet of a sluice. So I'm going to take all that, wash it out in the pan, then we can see if we have any gold. So when you're panning this out, you don't need to be in a real big hurry, but you can go a lot faster than when it's hard rock or concentrate, stuff like that we get off the shaker table. But the first thing you got to do is make sure it's all broke up and fluidized so the golds can get down to the bottom of the pan. Get these big rocks out of here. And you can just go pretty quick now, because most of this is just sand and light rock. Any dense pieces of gold are going to be down at the bottom of the pan. But there are a couple pieces in here. So this is one of my new favorite things. This is a microscope that I can put right at my camera and film up to 200 times power. So let me put it on. If you're interested in something like this, check out the link below. I got a link if you want to buy one of these. They're pretty cheap and they're really, really useful. There's our first little flake. And it looks like it's flattened out some, so it's rolled down the river. But I had to shake all the gold down to the center of the pan. There's another little piece right there, because I couldn't get my phone up in the corner in the crease. Now you're looking kind of right at the edge of the black sand. There's a piece of gold right in the center. Right there. A couple more little pieces there. They kind of show up as white because of the light in the microscope. But this works. Oh, there's a nice little piece. Over on the edge, I think you can see the gold color a little bit better. It looks to me like there's two main types of rocks here. There's stuff that looks like this gray looking stuff. Looks like a metamorphosed sedimentary rock, like a metamorphosed slate. Locally it's called a phyllite. And so that's one type of rock we have. And the other type that I'm seeing is this lighter orange stuff. It's a weathered volcanic or intrusive rock. So anytime you have intrusive rocks next to sedimentary rocks, a lot of times you'll find gold and some precious metals in there. And the theory is that these sedimentary rocks, they came off the seafloor, maybe they have precious metals in them, finely dispersed, and when they get buried near a subduction zone, you have hot fluids work their way through these sedimentary rocks, dissolve out those little tiny bit of precious metals that are in there, and then they concentrate them into faults and fractures through the tectonic plates and getting them pushed up into mountains. So it's really a good sign, and that's what you find here, is where you find up in this valley, where you find the intrusive rocks right next to the sedimentary rocks. That's oftentimes where you'll find those veins. But something else I found here, you see where they went. Can you see that? See the green on there? Looks like you have some of this maybe contact zone where they've metamorphosed some of these rocks. And so as I walk up the stream bed, I'm going to be looking for stuff like that. I'm going to be looking for stuff like this. Iron rusty stained quartz. And I'm just going to follow it up the creek as far as I can. And maybe if we're lucky, we can find something in the bedrock where the vein outcrops. Well, I wanted to pause gold panning for a minute here. I want to take a look at some of these rocks. I got 2 big chunks of quartz I found. So let's break them open and see what we can find here. So what I'm looking for is any sort of mineralization. These have been sitting in the creek for a long time, and so I'm expecting most of it to be leached out. But any little pockets or bugs that may have an indication that this held minerals at one time. This rusty pocket here looks kind of interesting. But that's the stuff you'd be looking for. Try this other one here. Pretty muddy. But I've been finding this stuff that I thought was pretty interesting. See those little green flecks in there? See them on the end there? I don't know if that's copper. It doesn't really look like copper. But let's get these broke open. Let's look at this one here. Whoa! Look at that! What is that? That's very green. And it looks like, at first I thought it was a piece of metamorphic sedimentary rock, but now it looks like it's got a whole bunch of quartz in there, almost like it's a quartz vein. One thing we do have around here is some darn big trees. Take a look at that monster. And for those of you who don't know, I actually have a second YouTube channel called S&J Forest Products. I'll leave a link in the description below. Go check it out, because I want to know what would happen if I took Fred a log that size. What do you think his reaction would be if I brought that up to a sawmill? Well, it just keeps getting steeper and steeper and harder to prospect in the creek. But I keep finding stuff like this with this quartz right up against this phyllite. A pretty well-defined, let's see if I can get in the light, does that help? Yeah, there you go. Pretty well-defined hanging wall or footwall, contact zone. But all that red irony stuff, good looking stuff, but this is what I'm dealing with. It's just pretty much rapids at this point as we go up the creek, and it's getting steeper and steeper. Well, I'm going to try and not show you every rock I look at, but this one was particularly interesting. It's got that bright red orange weathering rind on it, where it's starting to oxidize in, which means it's full of iron. And then those little black spots there, maybe sulfides. that are starting to degrade. It's in what looks like a quartz or quartzite matrix. It's got those little quartz stringers running through it. So again, good looking stuff. And we're still in that creek bed, working our way up. I gotta get across to the other side. It's a long way down into rushing cold water. Don't slip. That's a pretty nice looking waterfall, huh? Real pretty. Hey, what's that? You guys see that? You guys are not gonna believe what I just found. Holy cow. Oh, look at that. So as I was getting ready to go underground here, I saw some of this stuff. Look at this. Old piece of drill steel stuck in there. An old pick head. So somebody was working this and left their tools. But if you come back here and look, I haven't opened this door yet, but look, they have an old lock on it. I think this is split cedar boards that they used. Probably the only reason it's lasted 120 years. Does it, uh-oh, I'm breaking the door here. Ooh. It goes back there a ways. Well, I got the door propped open. I really don't want to disturb it too much. This is kind of like an archaeological site here. But you can see back, there goes the adit. Let's see where it goes. Okay, we're going in. I'm gonna leave my pack and tools outside. We're just gonna go on a little exploratory adventure here. Wow. This is amazing. I mean, just having that lock and those tools out there, I don't think anybody's been here in 125 years since they walked away or left or whatever. What do we got here? Some timber. It's in great shape. They've angled up so it's not full of water. Oh man. It's super wet. So you guys probably can't tell, but we've gone in about 20 feet and it's looping around to the left there, which is right under the waterfall. They're mining over under the waterfall, which is crazy. I'll have to go look and see if I can find a surface exposure they were trying to get after. What do we got here? Old wood, some old pieces of metal, maybe an old shovel there, I don't know. And then we've got some more boards up here. I don't know what they were doing. Oh, look, there's a bunch of drill steel up there. Oh, it's like welded on. Ugh. Look at that. Old school single jacks. You'd hold it with one hand and you'd hit it with the other and drill a hole. Ugh. Some nails there, some wire. All right, let's keep going here. Oh, this goes for a ways. This is kind of a big deal here. What do we got here? More steel. some shorties to get started with, and then a longer one. That one's probably 2.5 or 3 feet long. Oh, look here. Okay, so now we're in the good stuff. Yeah, remember that green stuff I was showing you in the last video? That's the green stuff. Look at that. So we've got some sort of vein here. They've cross-cut it. It doesn't look like it's on the back here anywhere, but it's so muddy you can't see. There's some more of it. So it looks like they were kind of in a zone of it here. Maybe they're following the zone back. Not as green. Wow, it's weird. I don't know if that's from the outside or like reverberations from the waterfall above us, but I can feel the waterfall in the tunnel. Like I can feel the vibration in my chest. There's some more of that green stuff. It doesn't look like copper though. Well, I'll go get my tools because I want to take a sample of this stuff. Like some quartzite inside the phyllite, and the quartzite's carrying this green color. Let's see if I can get some more off here. See all that there? What do you think all that green stuff is? Well, I just knocked a piece out of the wall there. What's that yellow thing right there? Kind of in the middle of your screen. The light. There we go. Yeah. What's that thing? Is that gold? I'll have to get it out in the light and look. There's some other kind of orangey pockets there. But that is what we're finding here. This piece doesn't have so much green on it. But that yellow colored fleck right there is kind of right in this banded zone here where it's its own little veinlet type of thing. Well, I've worked a little bit on our green zone down there. And then as you come up, more green, then it kind of peters out. Then you get into like some quartzy stuff. But what I think happens here is there's a fault or a little slip or something. Goes right along there and down that other side. Because if you see, there's that orangey stuff right there. Then you got this black stuff all squiggled through there, technical term. And then you've got some quartz and some more green stuff. And it looks like that's just been all mashed together. I hit on it a little bit with the hammer and chisel. When it's real soft, it just comes off of there. So you can just kind of peel it off of there like that. So I think they intersected a little bit of a fault here. Obviously didn't chase it anywhere because they didn't cross cut on it. Anyway, knock this off of here. Of course, I was coming on a prospecting trip with a gold pan and shovel. Didn't expect to do any underground work. I don't really have all the tools. So here's a good example of what I think is going on here. You've got a host rock, it's been fractured and filled in with these little quartz veinlets. And if you break them just right, it looks like you got a huge chunk of quartz. When you turn them 90 degrees, it's just a little veinlet like that. So I think most of this wall is just little veinlets of quartz, and there's just not enough volume here to make anything worthwhile. Here's something quite interesting though I just noticed. I think this is an intrusive diorite, this gray rock with the speckles. And then you've got the phyllite right here along the contact between the two. And then this is where the quartz has come in. And like I mentioned earlier on in the video, the intrusive came in, and this is just a little piece of it, obviously. But I mean, there could be a huge batholith somewhere, this stuff. Dissolved all the precious metals out of this and then incorporated them into these quartz veins here. And this one's kind of cool because this one had a little quartz vein come down and then it got sheared off and continued there. So it was quite active in this zone. But this is what you'd be looking for if you were looking for gold in this district, is this diorite intrusive right up against this phyllite. So I've got my samples packed up. I'm going to take them up into the woods where it's a little quieter and more comfortable to sit down, and we can take a look at the samples. But I need your advice here because I'm probably the only person alive who knows where this is. There's some really cool stuff here. There's that drill steel, that pickaxe, that lock. I'm really jonesing on that lock. That's a really cool thing. But I feel like it needs to stay here, right? It's this historical thing. It's part of the district, but I'm the only one that knows where it is. So my question for you guys is, should I take them? Should I bring them home and hang them on the wall as a museum piece? Or should I just leave them here, let history be, and just kind of respect what was here and what the old timers left? So leave me a comment down below. Well, I got her put back to bed, close the door. That lock's just calling my name over there, but I'm gonna leave it. And I think the only thing to do here is to name this the Cedar Door Mine. What do you think? We're back down at the shop. I want to take a look at some of these rocks, and then I have a very cool, very exciting new tool, both, that I want to show you guys. I'm going to give these a quick wash, get them wet, so the colors and the minerals stand out a little better. Now let's start off by looking at some of these green ones. This is the one I found in the creek, if you remember. I broke it open. And it's so green, it really caught my attention. I believe that this other stuff is the exact same stuff. I mean, you hold it up next to it, it sure looks like it's just weathered out pieces. This is a weathered out piece of this vein. So I think I followed it up, found the lode. And I've had some people comment on the first video that this is a rock called listwanite maybe, depending on if you're German or not. It has a couple different meanings, but what this is if it's listwanite, it is a metamorphosed serpentine or ultramafic rock, and the green is either a chrome or a nickel, and it's apparently turned into a carbonate, if I read Wikipedia correctly. And so as it got brought up in the fault zone, the serpentine, this ultramafic rock, got metamorphosed into this carbonate, oxidized the chrome or the nickel, and that's what the green is. The other thing this could be, and maybe it's the same thing, I don't know, help me out here with this, but there's also another rock called mariposite, which is named after Mariposa County in California, which is mother lode country. And they named it after that because this was a very common rock to find where it was a good indicator of gold. And so they'd follow this up, and what I read online was the gold would be found in these little tiny, that's probably not a great example, but little tiny quartz veins. Here's an example. You'd find gold in these quartz veins right here, but the host was this green metamorphosed ultramafic rock. So that's the story in the green. Let me know if you have any other comments on that. This is the piece here that I chipped out of the wall that I thought I had some gold on, and now for the life of me I can't remember where it was or find it. I think it might have been right up in here. Maybe right there, right over here. But this is an interesting one as well because it doesn't have any of the green in it, but it has this really nice vein, quartz vein, and that's where I was finding these little yellow flecks. Also some oxidation, some sulfides maybe, pieces of country rock that looks like it's got ripped off out of the country rock and then placed in this fault zone here. And then this stuff here, which also may be gold bearing or gold rich. This is the diorite that I showed you underground. We have the quartz veins cross cutting it, and this would also be a perfect place to look for gold in these quartz stringers. These are probably some of the bigger ones I saw underground, and so this is another real good candidate of where you'd find gold, like in these vugs here, right along the footwall or the hanging wall, or one of the contact zones here. Check it out, guys. I got a rock saw. This is an 18-inch rock saw, and I have to give a special thank you to all my patrons out there. I mentioned on a previous video that with your support, we were going to get a rock saw, and it happened. This is an awesome machine. It's going to come in absolutely invaluable in the future. So thank you to all my patrons, and if you want to support us, check out the links below. But for now, we're going to cut some rocks with this thing. I want to cut them so we can check out the minerals. Once you get that nice smooth surface, you can really kind of see a lot more about what's going on in the rock. We're all set up here. I've got it oriented, so I'm going to take a couple 3 or 4 slices across this vein here. That's the interesting thing. And I can move this table in after I take each cut. So we're going to cut this first one off, and then I'm going to slide it in and take another 1/4 inch slice off, and we'll do that 3 or 4 times. Oh, I'm excited. This is so much fun. I don't know if you can see in there, but there's a rock. Blades on the left. It's just starting to tick on the rock right now. And it just auto feeds in there real slow. Let's check out some of these rocks. So it takes actually quite a while for that saw to cut through these rocks. But because I can move the bench, I can cut them into these thin slabs. And this one was kind of cool because I could just work my way right through the quartz vein. But I didn't see any minerals. There were some spots, like right in here, where there were some vugs, some empty vugs, a little bit of rusty stuff, but I didn't see anything that looked like sulfides. I didn't see any gold, anything like that. My theory is that because that vein is sitting literally right under a waterfall, that all the sulfides have leached out of it over the years. I mean, the water has just come right down through there and leached out all the sulfides, all the minerals, and it's pretty much barren at this point. So that was interesting with the diorite and the quartz. Here was that one that I chipped off the wall and thought there was gold in it. I don't think there's any gold in this stuff, or visible gold anyway. But look at the crazy screwed up, tortured rock in there. Man, that has been really faulted and stressed. And you can see all these little veinlets that's come up through and re-glued all this rock together. So that was pretty cool. I really like that one. This is really interesting. This is the listwanite. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And it is an absolutely beautiful rock on the inside. But this is the stuff that I chipped off the wall, and it's kind of fractured. So you can see here where it's broken. When I cut it, it kind of fell apart into a couple different 3 or 4 pieces. But it's an absolutely beautiful rock. And a little bit of research I've done, actually people are using these for jewelry. And you can cut them into cabochons and stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting. This is the piece that I found in the creek. And look at the fancy swirls in that. I thought that was a beautiful piece. If you guys are interested in any of these rocks, I'm going to put them on eBay. So check out the eBay listings. I'm super excited about my new toy slash tool, and I think that was a really cool trip. That's not exactly what I went up there to do, but I'm really glad I found the cedar door mine and found some really, really interesting pieces of geology there that I brought back, and using the saw. This saw is going to get so much use in the future. I'm so excited. But if you guys are interested in any of the samples up here, check out our eBay listings. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.